Hunt with passion. Never stop casting. Chase the dream. Welcome to Season 6 of Musky Mastery Outdoors. Brought to you by Joe Bucher Outdoors, #1 in big game fish products. And by Recon Boats, made by craftsmen, built for fishermen.
Hey everybody, what's up, and welcome back to another Musky Mastery Quick Tips YouTube segment. In today's video, I want to talk to you about something that is super important for casting, and this is a fundamental skill that's really going to take your musky fishing game and actually just fishing game in general to the next level. Now, I'm going to tease you here with a little idea that I've been thinking about. If you're on the fence about live imaging technology, live scope and all that stuff, you might want to try this out before investing the thousands into all that fancy computer technology, because this casting tip is essentially as good as live imaging. Maybe not, but it's pretty darn good. It's something that I rely on all the time to help me put more muskies in the boat. And here's what it's called. It's called the test cast. It's called the parallel cast. Let me show you how it's done here. So, the first thing I'm going to demonstrate is just a traditional cast. Most of us here, when we're fishing structure, in this case we're going to be fishing a weed flat. I'm just throwing a baby shallow-rater here. Most of the time when we're fishing a big weed flat like I've got in front of me right here, we cast what I call perpendicular to the boat and into the flat. Okay, so right now I've got my Recon here. This is the old 895 tiller here. I've got this boat positioned on the edge of the flat, and I'm casting into the flat. I'm casting perpendicular to the side of the boat here. This is the way we catch a lot of our muskies, right? We're casting up into the flat. A lot of times these fish are positioned way up in the flat here, and those are the fish we're catching. Very common practice here in the casting world. Just position your boat on the edge or close to the edge, bomb it up into that flat. A lot of times when we're casting into the flat, we're throwing things like blades, your 500 Bucher tail, whatever it might be, your top raider, and in this case, if you've got some clearance between the top of the weeds and the surface of the lake, you can get a crankbait in there and stuff like that. Here's the deal though. Muskies are creatures of edges. Yes, are they going to be up in the flat? Of course they are, and we catch a lot of fish doing that. But how many times do you go through a spot and you say, you cast up here, you bomb it way up into the flat, very traditional, you work it back to the boat and you work your whole spot and you don't see anything, right? Most of the time when we fish our muskie spots, unfortunately we don't see a whole lot, but you might be able to change that sometimes with this little technique I want to show you here. And again, it's called the test cast. And what the test cast is again, instead of casting perpendicular to the side of the boat here, so again, if the boat runs left and right, I'm talking you're throwing perpendicular to the edge of the boat. Now I'm going to tell you to throw parallel. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to move the nose of my boat. I'm going to move the bow out away from the weed flat. The weed flat's over here to my left, okay? I'm going to move the bow out, and now I'm going to take a cast right down the edge. I call this a test cast. I'm going to cast right down the edge of the weeds here, okay? I might do more than one. A lot of times I do. I take 2 or 3 as I work through a flat. And here, all I'm doing is I'm working my shallow raider here now parallel to the edge of the flat that I was just casting into. Now, let me just work this back, and I'm going to tell you about why that's so important. How about a little pause there? A little slack line twitch. All right, so that's the secret. It's the parallel cast to the flat you're fishing. It's the parallel cast to the rock reef you're fishing. Whatever it is, I call them test casts because most of the time we're casting into the flat. That's where a lot of our fish are holding. The bait fish are up in there because there's nooks, there's crannies to hide, there's big, globs of weeds. I mean, all the stuff's in there. And the muskies are in there too. We often talk about casting into, channels or pockets in the weeds up in the flat. That's fantastic. It works all the time. But what about the fish that are out deeper, truly on the edge of the flat? Well, you're gonna miss those fish if you only cast perpendicular to the side of the boat. And again, I'm just gonna rephrase that. If you're only casting up and you're bombing it into the flat, you're gonna miss fish that are hanging outside on the edge. So how do you catch the edge fish? You throw test casts as you fish the flat. So again, it looks like I'm casting into the wide, wide open basin here, but I'm not. All I'm doing is casting up onto the edge here. This is where I would actually be running my boat. I'm running my boat along the edge. That's usually where we traditionally, kind of lock our boat in as we're casting some kind of structure, right? Well, you're gonna literally bring the boat right over those muskies that are on the edge if you're not taking those test casts, if you're not throwing the old-fashioned version of live imaging. Now, the reason I'm joking about that is because it's a hot topic right now, and everybody's thinking, everybody's getting live imaging. Everybody wants to shoot their transducer ahead of the boat and look for muskies that are sitting in front of them. Well, you can do this for essentially $0 by just casting ahead of the boat, casting on the edge without paying a cent. Now, does test casting work with every lure category? I believe so. It doesn't matter if you're throwing a bucktail or a crankbait or a topwater or a spinnerbait or a tube or soft plastics, you name it, you can always be taking test casts. And it's just as simple as, again, here I'm casting into the flat. I'm casting perpendicular to the side of the boat. Very traditional, the boat's on the edge. Okay, I'm gonna work this in, and then I'm gonna show you one more test cast. How often should you test cast? Often. Anytime you've got, let's say for example, a little bit of a finger that sticks out in the flat, take a test cast. Cast up ahead of the boat and make sure that you're able to, catch a fish on that before you get too close to it. How many times do you take your boat and you're running along a weed edge, keyword there, edge, right? You're running along a weed edge, and all of a sudden you see the weeds, you see that little finger sticking out, and you're like, oh, crap, I should have casted that. I wish I had known that was there, and you mark a waypoint, and then you come back and you fish it better next time. Well, a lot of times, again, you can eliminate these errors sometimes, I should say. I'm just holding my tripod here as we got these big wake boat waves coming through here. You can eliminate those errors by running up on a little finger or something like that, especially if you're fishing new water, by throwing test casts. Getting ahead of the boat and trying to locate fish that are on that edge. Well, I'm gonna just finish this episode by holding my tripod down here, and actually here I can take one more test cast and I'll see if we can make it work here. So again, that's it. And a lot of times what I'm doing is I'm just moving that bow out so I can cast parallel here. And how often do you do this again? I'd say every, however many feet you're casting. If you're throwing, 100 and some foot cast, well, then you've just checked 100 some feet of the edge, and then you can go back to casting up into the flat. But once you think you've gotten to a certain point, or you anticipate there being something special up ahead of you that's out from the flat or out for whatever structure you're fishing, go ahead and cast it. Cast parallel to that edge. Cast ahead of the boat to see if you can get a strike or a muskie or some type of predator fish, whatever you're fishing for, before you run up on it with the boat. So there you have it, folks. I really hope you enjoyed this musky quick tip today. And this is a technique that I've utilized for years. It's improved my angling skills, whether that's for walleyes and bass, or in this case, muskies. I'm always trying to cast up ahead of the boat to see what's there before I get there. You can certainly look ahead of the boat with live imaging technologies and scout out a muskie with the computer system. But if you don't have that, and you still want to be able to search in front of the boat, and you don't have live scope, just take a test cast, and that is a great way to do it. You're going to catch more fish, you're going to fish your structure better, and you're just going to open up doors to different possibilities if you haven't done this that you would never have had, because you're probably running your boat over muskies, and that's not a good thing. You want to be able to take a cast at those fish. So anyway, guys, really hope you enjoyed this one. More quick tips coming this season. If you want to see something, shoot me an email at muskymastery@gmail.com or leave a message in this YouTube video. And hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching.